Who was the king of the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft? Sounds like a ridiculous question, right? How does somebody rule a Minecraft server that has no rules? Well, when you've had hundreds of thousands of players over the years, there's bound to be a few that desire power, influence, and attention here on 2b2t. Today's video focuses on two individuals who both called themselves the king of 2b2t at one point. One's journey ended in disaster, and one went down as a 2b2t legend. There's a lot of history to cover today, so let's get started. When looking at the 2b2t timeline, everything that I discuss in today's video takes place between 2010 and early 2016, as this is the only time in the server's history where the player base was small enough to come to a consensus on anything. The first person to ever call himself king of 2b2t was a 2011 player named Chris Lighton. Old players recognize this name instantly because of what happened to him. His story serves as a cautionary tale to all new players, so if you are new to 2b2t, you should pay close attention to this one. Chris Lighton was your quintessential 2b2t player. He was toxic, enjoyed griefing, and was all around obnoxious. He would constantly spam the following phrase in chat: "Chris Lighton is the king of 2b2t." And that last part, I'm sure you can fill in the blanks. But he spammed this phrase non-stop. And back in 2011, the /ignore feature did not exist yet. So players were forced to read these messages day in and day out. Just to get him to shut up, the player base at the time humored him and told him, "Yes, Chris, you are the king of 2b2t. And of course, it went to his head. He became one of the biggest griefers of 2011. He griefed spawn bases and took spawn killing so seriously that it was borderline obsessive. Some say that the 2b2t tradition of killing new players started with Chris. Back in 2011, instead of having a random spawn location within a certain radius of 0, everybody would spawn in the exact same spot. Chris was notorious for pouring lava over the entire area, burning new players alive instantly. Players that originally made fun of Chris for trying to be the king actually began to respect his dedication to making life on 2b2t miserable for new players. When he wasn't busy killing these new players, Chris actually did work on some projects. He was one of the first people to dig out tunnels near the nether ceiling. He actually helped dig out the early parts of what is now the infamous X Highway to the world border. Chris was the most notorious player of 2011, and he had achieved fame and notoriety on the server. He had obtained all the attention that he desired. But all of this attention came at a cost. Some players had grown so sick of Chris that they wanted to make him leave the server forever. After doing some basic research, the players discovered something shocking: the true identity of 2b2t's self-proclaimed king. It turns out that Chris Lighton was not just a Minecraft username. Chris Lighton was his actual name. Chris had doxed himself by using his real name as his Minecraft name, and the toxic player base of 2b2t took advantage. He was harassed to the point of quitting the server. This event would unfortunately set precedents for many more incidents like this to happen over the years, and is part of what gave 2b2t the reputation of being the world's worst Minecraft server. Chris had come to 2b2t begging for attention, and unfortunately for him, he got it tenfold. Chris's story is a cautionary tale for new players about why it's important to keep your personal details to a minimum when dealing with 2b2t. After Chris left the server for good, there would be many copycats throughout the years that would try and copy Chris's style and persona, even going as far as using his exact same messages in chat. But it wasn't until a few years later, until the next contender for king came along. Someone who I would argue came closest to being an actual king of 2B2T. Pyrobyte, the most legendary 2B2T player of all time, regarded by most old players as the true king of 2B2T. How did he get this reputation? Well, similar to Chris, originally Pyrobyte was seen as an obnoxious player, but unlike Chris, Pyro was an actual computer hacker. He was able to make his own hack client and exploit the server in ways that had not been done before. In 2013, using a backdoor, Pyrobyte together with iTristan teleported to the world border, becoming the first players on 2B2T to see it with their own eyes. Pyro was also one of the creators of 2B2T's super weapons, the 32K items. Much like his predecessor, Chris, Pyro himself enjoyed griefing the spawn region and started the trend of naming withers after himself. He would name all of them. Pyrobyte is the king of 2B2T. He spawned them all over. I personally can remember New Year's Eve of 2014 going into 2015. I was on 2B2T that evening before heading out for festivities, and while I was playing, I was greeted with this sound. Pyrobyte spawned about 50 withers in the span of about a minute, all of them named after himself. Pyrobyte was also known to mess around on the Nether roof before the plugin existed that kicked players off of it. Being a member of Valkyria, he established good relationships with the player base at the time. He would be a part of many bases in his time, but his leadership abilities truly began to shine when he was selected as one of the leaders of Asgard 2, the largest group base on 2B2T in 2015. Since the majority of the active player base lived at this base and saw Pyro as a true leader, most took Pyro's claim of being king as fact. He was a powerful player with backdoor access, but never used the access maliciously. Of course, like any ruler in real-life history, he was not perfect. While posting screenshots in a group Skype chat, Pyrobyte accidentally leaked the coordinates of Asgard 2. Pyro knew that his favorable reputation would suffer if the truth got out. Nobody could know that Asgard 2 was his fault, so he decided to hide the truth. His accidental leak was so well hidden that even I didn't know about it until years later. In fact, me finding out this revelation is part of what made me want to make this video in the first place, now that we finally know the truth behind Asgard 2. But telling us all that a coordinate leak had happened and that griefers were on their way, Pyro knew that if he could channel the base's energy and anger at something, it would make it easier for people to move on from Asgard 2. All of this would culminate into the creation of the third incursion at spawn. Since Pyro felt bad about causing Asgard 2 to fall, he wanted to give the base members a memory that they would never forget. So using his powerful repertoire of items, he utilized infinite blocks to help build one of the most famous structures in 2B's history, Wrath Outpost. Pyro proved his leadership abilities by turning what could be seen as a tragedy into one of the most positive experiences players had on the server. I still look back fondly at those times. In early 2016, Pyro quietly left 2B2T for good. In the community, there's this running joke that you can quit the server at any time, but you can never leave. Pyro is the exception to this rule. He deleted his GitHub and most traces of himself on the internet. He left the world of 2B2T behind, forever, and very few have heard from him since. The only active player on 2B2T that still has ties to Pyrobyte refuses to give up any details about him, and I can't say I blame him. Pyrobyte is the closest 2B2T has ever had to an actual king. He had immense power on the server, yet showed restraint in using it. He had the respect of the majority of the 2B2T player base, with most actually referring to him as king. If you want my opinion, I'd tell you that yes, he was the king of 2B2T. While there have been countless copycats of both Chris and Pyro over the years, none of the players could back up their claims of being the king. Now, with the player base being so large and divided on a multitude of issues, having the community agree on someone being king is borderline impossible. The era of kings on 2B2T is long gone. But it makes for an interesting memory and a very interesting story. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to subscribe and like the video. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow me on Twitch to catch my weekly live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that's it for today's 2B2T video, everyone. I hope you learned a little something. And for you new players out there, I hope you learned a valuable lesson about what happens if you try to get too famous on 2B2T. So, take it easy, everyone. Stay alive out there, Fit Fam, and we'll see you next time.